Okay, it's well about 2 minutes before 5 p.m. 16:58 to be exact. So we're going to go ahead and get started anyway. See if anybody wants to dial in. I'm on screen sharing, so you should see my laptop. I'm going to hold up here for just a second and wait. See if anybody again dials in. This is Zoom for Mr. Jamison. I'm Mr. Jamison. LDR 490 Leadership Capstone course for the fall term. Fall first, if I'm not mistaken, or is it fall second? I have a hard time remembering these. So we're fall second, obviously. And again, we're just going to wait and see if anybody dials in. So I'm just going to kind of stare at you for about a minute here or two. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started since I think that's probably going to be all. All right, so as you can see on my screen here, LDR 490 Leadership Capstone course. We don't have a textbook for this course, as you can tell. We're not going to teach you a lot of things in this particular course in the traditional sense. What we're really doing here is a Socratic method, and you're taking two common baseline references that everybody's reading. In this particular case, a couple autobiographies, certainly biographies written with ghostwriters at a minimum. The first is Leadership Secrets of the Salvation Army by Watson. And then and that represents a nonprofit organization. And then we've got Without Reservations by J.W. Marriott, Bill for short, Jr. This would be the son of the famous Marriott clan. In that text or that book is representing a for-profit organization. These two organizations are successful. They've been around for quite a while. They are a good case study in leadership because of the way the authors approached their text and what they share with you, which was the whole idea in selecting these texts and the method about which we teach this particular course. In a sense, what you're going to do here is, in this course, is you're going to read through these two books, and you're going to pull out leadership principles, theories, traits, methods, theories, and the like, and demonstrate to me what you learned and what you apply. Now, where would you have learned leadership principles, theories, methods to date? Well, the prerequisites for this course is to have gone through the LDR series of courses through University of Mount Olive. So, drawing heavily from what you learned in your textbooks from LDR 300, 340, 360, 400, 440, 460, ranging from DAF's leadership over primer, if you will, or primer if it's more correctly pronounced, all the way through effective teamwork and getting into innovation and conflict resolution. I think LDR 400, right? You had case studies. You've had innovation. You've had a whole host of courses now. And a lot of these will weave through these two books. You will see where Salvation Army and Marriott have had to go through conflict resolution, have had to deal with effective teamwork, have had to deal with innovation and be innovative. And so what we want you to do here is read these for what they're worth, which is quite a bit. You'll pull out some remarkable things, I assure you. And I want you to identify what jumps out at you. There is no wrong or right answer in the sense of, well, in chapter 2, you should have pulled out risk, and you didn't. That's not, excuse me, I apologize. That's not quite what we're after. And that's not how I grade this course. What I grade this course on is the conclusion that you reach and the evidence you use to support it. So if you tell me that Marriott was innovative, off the top, I will agree with you. They were. Now dig a little deeper. Tell me something about that innovation. Tell me what type of innovation it was. Was it breakthrough? Was it incremental? Was it based on a global business plan? Do they have a process? Were they willing to accept the risks? What did they do to mitigate those risks or otherwise transfer or make it palpable to take? Do you see what I'm driving at here? It's kind of like, not kind of like, it is, just like the previous question that I had you answer in regarding to analyzing the mission statement. Okay, understanding the mission statement is what gets everybody on board. This is our perpetual document. This is our core. This is what we are. You've heard the term mission creep, where organizations get in trouble when they start getting outside of what their mission originally was. This is certainly true in the military. We use this term a lot, where an organization is built to execute a certain mission. They get over in theater, they start executing that mission, and the mission starts to change. It starts to morph into something else. And that organization may not be built to handle And that's where you start to see some failures. Certainly the most instructive on mission creep would be, for example, our Marines in Beirut in the late 80s, where we were in there as a peacekeeping force. But after a while, the Navy in the U.S., obviously, policy had changed to which they were now firing in support of the Druze militia or the Lebanese forces, which then caused, obviously, some of the opposing faction to figure out that, well, the Marines just picked a side. They're not on our side, so then now they're the enemy. And we see what happened on October the 23rd of 1983. The more recent example would only have been a few years later in Mogadishu with what's called Black Hawk Down, a book by Tom Bowden, and I believe it's Tom. Anyway, you may correct me on the author, but the text of Black Hawk Down was later turned into a feature-length film. In this regard, task force that was there, the original purpose of our forces in Mogadishu was to feed, reopen the feed centers because food is being used as a weapon, and to limit the effectiveness of the local militias. At some point, we decided to pick which militias would be successful, which ones would be set aside. And that's where we started going after some of local warlords' staff, raiding his compound in what was obviously very, I don't know how to put it best, fortified portion of the city. And unfortunately had lost a bunch of good men. Anyway, the idea that we started going from feeding people to now arresting and snatching the staff of Adid, if not Adid himself, who considered himself the rightful leader in Mogadishu, just by virtue of his background and who he said he was. Regardless of whether that was correct or not, the force was not built for what it had to execute, and the ensuing firefights bear that out. In the end, we lost some good men, and there were 2 Medal of Honor recipients come out of that battle, which in the early 90s was astounding. It doesn't take away from the bravery of the men, doesn't take away from their desire to serve their nation with the best they had. It just highlights what happens when missions start to change and we don't change the organizational dynamics that set us up for those failures. That's why I sent you that slide in week 1. Okay, organizational success comes down to 7 things. 3 who's and 4 how's. Who do we recruit or who do we hire? Who do we promote? Who do we make senior leaders? How do we train? How do we equip? How do we organize? And how do we execute our mission? That's it. 3 who's, 4 how's. Now, get any of those wrong, get one of those wrong, and your organization's going to be in trouble. Okay? Get 2 or more wrong, and the organization's going to self-destruct. It won't be around. And it's that easy. And it's that difficult because this is things that challenge us all. Can you imagine your organization, whatever one that you work in presently or belong to presently? What would happen if you were recruiting the wrong people and at the same time you were not training them to do the job? Okay, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist on this regard. So I share that with you because I think it's a great summation. And when all fails in this course and in others that you have with me, if you're having a hard time identifying the leadership method or principle or what's going on, Put that slide next to you and then read. Okay, and then see how the Salvation Army or Bill Marriott have organized. Read what they talk about when they're talking about hiring and promoting. How do they execute the particular mission? Okay. All right. In that sense, everybody's doing pretty good. Most of you got the work in on time, which I appreciate. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk through the organization of the course. As I scroll down, and you'll see Moodle's got been changed around. Makes it a little bit easier now to navigate. And you'll see up here in the upper right-hand corner, there is a table of contents. And that table of contents lets you jump to that particular week. So if I hit week 2, I jump down and I'm here at week 2. Magical, huh? Pretty good stuff. So this week, it's a standard week. You note that you have a discussion forum, question to answer, one question, not that hard, and post it to the discussion forum by Wednesday night so that everybody can comment on it. You post, and then you have to respond to 2 other students' postings within 2 days. So post yours on Wednesday, no later than 23:59 or midnight, if you will. And then if you want to comment on other students' posts that night, do it. If you want to do it the next day on Thursday, do it. If you want to do it next day on Friday, do it. Okay. But in the end, post yours on Wednesday and comment on the others no later than Friday. Okay. Failure to do that will cost you. Okay. If you don't even post, excuse me, then there's nothing upon which I can grade you. That's a fat 0. Okay. If you post, but you don't comment, I'm going to apply a participation penalty of 10%. And so you might have done very well on your posting and scored 100, but because you didn't post on other students' pages, you wound up with a 90. And then that explains the cost of not following the instructions. So if you got any questions on this or concerns, any problems, by all means, let me know. Most of you hit it, did very good on that. A couple of you didn't, and I'll just chalk that up to us getting used to each other, and that'll be corrected by this week. So tomorrow, by tomorrow night, I want you to complete your readings for this week and choose one concept that you learned from each of the companies that you found most interesting. Explain the value you see in it, why it's important to you. Explain how you will use it in your role as a future leader, as a leader now. Okay? So again, I'm not going to dictate which concept you pull. I don't care. What I do care about is you being able to explain what you see in it and how you'll use it as a future leader. Again, you have to understand the fundamental relationship, the one that matters most. And this is what you got out of your case studies in leadership, LDR 340, is the fundamental relationship is your conclusion plus the evidence used to support it. And that's why I give you the 3x5 rule. You give me a conclusion, and then 3 to 5 pieces of evidence you use to back up what you say. Okay, and this comes from the text of that course that you pulled the concept from. So as an example, if you pulled out distributive bargaining, which was obviously out of LDR 400, effective conflict resolution, then talk to me about it. You know, what is distributive bargaining? Okay, is that a win-win? Is that a win-lose? What is the strategy behind it? What are some of the principles that we use in that as a negotiation technique? Okay, see what I'm saying? All right, should be straightforward. Not saying it's easy. It's certainly a lot of work, but that's what I'm here to do. is to get you through it. You do the work, and I help you get through it. If it was easy, anybody could do it. Now, some of you have chosen to take on a pretty heavy course load. That's your call. I don't have any agreement or disagreement in that. That's none of really, quite frankly, my business. But it does become my business when it impacts your coursework. There comes times when, if you've chosen to take on a heavy course load, then coming in and griping about having a heavy course load as a reason that you're turning in work, you're trying to turn in work late, is not going to be necessarily received well. Okay? Now let's talk about that late work for a second, then I'll move on to the other question. As you accepted the syllabus, and in the syllabus tells you that late work is not accepted. UMO policy, University of Mount Olive policy, is no makeup work. You are to have the work done on the timeline presented. With that, the dean does accept that there are times where events get out of our control, that certain exigencies will exist. This was true a couple years ago during Hurricane Florence. This was true most recently with COVID. This goes on even today. Okay, so it becomes a balance in adhering to the UMO policy, and then also having a bit of grace about what we do. So here's the deal. As your instructor, I am not allowed to grade work that is not in Moodle. In fact, the work has to be in Moodle for it to count. There's a couple reasons for this, not least of which is that work that is entered in Moodle is what the governing bodies that provide accreditation for the school use. In other words, your university that you attend, whatever one it is, will or will not have an accreditation. The fact that it does not have an accreditation tends to hurt. It means your school is less reputable. If your school has accreditation, that tends to be more impressive because it's a rigorous process in order to gain and maintain accreditation. Again, depending on the governing body that's involved. If you go back and you look at the Tillman School of Business section, it'll tell you the accreditations that your university has. And this is good in your favor because it adds value to that diploma that you're eventually going to hang up on your wall. Okay, so because I cannot grade work that hasn't been uploaded in Moodle, I am also limited. I cannot upload the work for you. Nobody can upload the work for you. Only you can upload the work to Moodle, and there's obvious reason behind that. So if you miss an assignment, emailing me your file doesn't do any good. Okay, I appreciate it, and I understand the sentiment, but there's nothing I can do on that. Best thing to do is, if there's going to be a problem beforehand, let me know and we'll work around the timeline. Okay. If we're beyond the timeline and the problem occurs, then certainly communicate with me and inform me as to what happened and why, and then what your plan of action is, your recommendation. Okay. Like any follower, you're going to demand of your followers some subordinate leadership. You're going to start developing that in them. And this is a follow-on to that article that I had many of you read, Who's Got the Monkey, where we're developing initiative levels out of our subordinates. So in this, we try to set up where take some ownership. So if you missed an assignment, instead of emailing it to me and saying I missed the assignment, which is pretty obvious because I could see you didn't, because I didn't, I had nothing to grade. You tell me what happened and why, and what your recommendation is, or your proposal for way ahead is. Cat ate my homework. Bad cat, wasn't happy. Please unlock Moodle. I can upload it by midnight tonight, 23:59 tonight, and I understand if there's a late penalty assigned, or this was completely out of my control. Please give me 4 days to work on it, and then let me upload it and grade it without penalty. Do you see what I'm getting at? Okay. Because in the meantime, we start to chase each other on emails. In fact, I'm doing that with one of you right now, where you've written me and you've emailed me your work, and I've had to come back and ask you what happened. Okay, why was it late? I was in the emergency room, being intubated. That's, a reason why you would not have been available to upload a file. And we'll certainly address that, okay? I was out, drinking with my buddies, and we were celebrating our team's win. It is not quite going to rise to the level of understanding, but at least I'll appreciate the sentiment. I like to drink when my team wins. Anyway, having said all that, we'll figure it out. Most of you have been through this before. You've had me before as an instructor, so you know what the deal is. In the end, any work that's not turned in is going to be a 0. Okay, and some of you choose to accept that and work through it, and that's fine. Some of you don't wish to have the 0, and so you need to come on and explain to me what happened and why. All right, so get back to standard week. You've turned in your Wednesday night file, uploaded it, and then you've posted on 2 other students, and that's a minimum. You could post on all of them if you want. That's good. And then you've got a written assignment. So written assignment is separate from the discussion. It's a different question. Again, it's a recap from what you've learned. Explain your knowledge. And in this case, week number 2, we're asking, what risks did the company take in the beginning? Okay, so based on your reading, you're going to see risks. And I want you to articulate, what were some of those risks? Okay, and again, we don't just, it isn't a souvenir, it isn't a scavenger hunt. I'm not out looking just to see what risk you'd find, but I want you to talk about it, okay? Expand on it. What from your learning, from your previous reading, from DAF text and others, did you learn about risk? What did you learn about risk in innovation class? Okay? What types of risk are there? What is our reaction to risk? What are some of the actions we can take when presented with a risky proposition? And those range a gamut, okay? All right, and again, it's your opportunity to talk it out and lay it out. And those are due on Saturday night before 23:59. All right, so Wednesday night post, comment on 2 other students by Friday, and have your written assignment done by Saturday night. This will continue for another week, and then we're going to start in week 3 a new wrinkle, okay? You have a paper that's due, your final project, that is worth 50% of your grade, okay? I'll say that again. Your final paper is worth 50% of your grade. That's a heavy amount of points to gamble on, okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to start writing your paper, your final paper, starting in week 3. Here's how it's going to work. Your final paper, your leadership capstone paper, is a basic research paper, if you will. Okay, and it is going to consist of a position statement, your conclusion, and 3 to 5 critical points in the introduction, and it will have 5 chapters. Okay, each chapter is going to be different and cover a concept. Each week, so starting in week 3, you're going to turn in a chapter of that final paper. Now, think of your textbook in any other course. Your textbook will have an introduction section and a conclusion section. And in there, it will have writing chapters, each covering a subject, but different. So in your draft text is all leadership. You had a chapter on mission vision. You had a chapter on motivation. You had a chapter on diversity. Okay. Same thing here. Your final paper will be about leadership. Okay. We're going to utilize examples out of the Marriott and the Salvation Army books. But chapter 3 or chapter 1 during week 3 could be on any leadership principle that you want to pull out. Okay, you could pull it out from the reading that week. You could pull it out from any other week. You're not necessarily tied to that week's readings for your chapters. Okay, but I want you to utilize the material and fully examine the topic that's in your chapters. So, chapter 1 could follow, as an example, the question in week 1. So, you might decide that. Week 4, week 5, 6, and 7. Week 8, you're going to have already written 5 chapters. You're going to assemble that into a paper with a introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph. You're going to wordsmith it so it flows, and that's going to be your final paper. Now, I can only grade your final paper once. So as you turn these chapters in, I'm not technically going to grade them. I will review them. I will provide you some feedback. I will tell you if I think the level of work is of a certain grade level. So I could come back and tell you, okay, I haven't graded this, but so far what you've written in chapter 1 rises to the level of about A work. Okay, and that should tell you, hey, this is gotten it, and this is going to be about a D on your final paper that we need to fix that over the next 2 weeks. Certainly have it fixed by the time you turn in that final paper. If I tell you that that chapter is probably D level work, you do nothing to change it, and you turn it in as part of the final paper, don't be surprised that your final paper has a bad grade. Okay, makes sense? So again, it's doing 2 things. It's ensuring that you don't wait until the last minute to try to write this 25-page paper, and it gives you the benefit of me to look at least what you're submitting as part of the assignment. Okay? If there's any questions on that, certainly let me know. All right. And like I said, we'll continue to do that. Week 4, okay, right? Discussion, written assignment. Chapter 2, you final chapter 3, right? Okay, and so on. Those chapters, hey, go into your draft text and pull them out. They're right there. You can one week talk about mission, next week talk about innovation, next week talk about employee motivation and the differences between intrinsic and extrinsic. There's one chapter you could talk about motivational theories to include path goal. You could talk on, sky's the limit. But the idea here is don't be looking at the Marriott and the Salvation Army readings as a source of information in the sense of a textbook. You've had a lot of learning. This is time to be able to pull out of, again, almost like a case study, what you've learned, okay? All right. It's 5:35. I'm going to go ahead and end this and get on to other things for tonight. If there's any questions, concerns, certainly email me or call me. Over here in Meet Your Professor, and I'm obviously on email. Yeah, that's preferred email. But there's an emergency, so you call. All right. I hope this. And look, I tell you, everybody's doing fine so far. A couple glitches, we'll work through those. Those that have had glitches, I've let know. All right. Just get into the program. Not necessarily cooperate to graduate, but pretty close to that. And understand what's required, and then produce. Okay. Thanks for your time and attention. This will be posted to Moodle here in just a little bit. And I wish you all best of luck and hope you have a good night.